I'm gonna make a not so wild assumption about the person watching this video. This is not to attack anybody, demean anybody, nothing like that. I guarantee you that in your entire rig, the one thing that you completely overlook or never think about, and it's okay if you don't, is your power supplies. What power supplies are you using? Most of you will probably say, oh, I'm just using 9-volt power. 9-volt power. Yes, that's generally what most pedals, multi-effects pedals, anything that you kind of plug into a wall or plug in on your pedal board probably takes some form of 9-volt power. But did you know that there are subtle differences that could be affecting your tone, that could be affecting the performance of your units, and potentially could be damaging your units if you're not giving these a second look? Now, the idea for this video came along thanks to some help from my friends over at JOYO, who reached out and asked me if I wanted to take a look at their power supplies. And I'll be honest with you, I was like, how am I going to do a video on a power supply? Now, I have done one before, but I didn't do one in this style. And this is going to be more of an educational kind of thing while also showcasing the products that they sent me. Because at the end of the day, a power supply is generally the same thing. You plug it into a wall, you plug it into a thing, and for the most part, when you get something like a new pedal or a new multi-effects unit or like a little amp head or whatever, they come with their own power supplies. And if you read those instruction manuals, like I harp on about on this channel a lot, you'll know that they usually in there somewhere say, use the included power supply. They tell you that and they harp on it so you do not damage your unit, because if you do not have the right voltage going into it, and I'm not an electrician, I don't really know all the terms, so Google's gonna be my friend here. I'm just being honest with you. You can damage your units, and you don't wanna do that. So I'm here to help maybe avoid some turmoil and heartbreak, professional, I know, with your units in using power supplies. So thank you, JOYO, for sending these out. Let's take a look at them and talk about it for a little bit. And as always, links to the products in this video are down in the description. Now to start, let's take a look at something like these two, right? So this one is a JOYO power supply. This one's another power supply with something else that I got. Now, looking at them at first, you can tell that there's a size difference on the blocks here that actually plug into the wall. That's because the JOYO one is a 9-volt power supply. This one's an 18-volt power supply. Now, the reason that I'm starting off and showing you these two is because you do not want to take the 18-volt and plug it into something that requires only 9 volts. So, for example, this TC electronic pedal here takes 9-volt power. That's all you need. So you do not want to plug the 18-volt into this, because if you do, a couple things can happen here. First and foremost, you might start to notice a smell. Yes, folks, a smell. I've actually accidentally done this before. I've plugged an 18-volt power supply into a multi-effects unit before that required a 9-volt power supply, and within about 10 seconds of turning that multi-effects unit on, I noticed a smell. And it was like an electric, have you ever smelled like an electrical smell? I know that sounds crazy, but I smelled it. And immediately I was like, ooh, that's not good, turn it off, and I checked. That, if you catch it soon enough, it's okay. But if you're like constantly trying to run something like that, you are going to damage your unit. So you need to check the voltage on your power supplies and make sure you're running the correct one. That is pivotal. Now, looking at something like these two, these are a little more confusing. They're not really going to be as detrimental if you're using these two, for example, just because they are subtle differences, but you still want to try to match the amps of it, not just the voltage. So both of these are 9-volt. These are both JOYO power supplies. The difference is, if I can read these, you're going to find them right there on the side where you actually plug it into the wall. You'll notice there's a bunch of writing there, and a lot of people they know it's there, but they never read it. So this one in my left hand is 9 volts, 0.5 amps. This one in my right hand is 9 volts, 1.2 amps. So I think for the most part, we all can kind of do the volt thing. There's 9, 12, 18. I don't know if there are any ones higher or lower than those, but those are generally what you're going to find. What about the amps or the milliamps? And just really quickly, amps and milliamps. A milliamp is 1/1000th of an amp. So you can do some little quick conversions there. So for example, with these two, There's not a huge difference in the amount of current. Really, the only difference with these is how much power each one can supply. So you'll get things like faster charging with the 1.2 versus the 0.5. Or you may get slightly better performance out of something because it'll have a little bit more current going to it. You can make it run just a slightly bit better. So, I mean, it's not like a huge difference there. It's kind of a game of inches. But when you're looking at things like pedals, for example, going back to the TC Electronic here, this one specifies up at the top 9 volt DC, right? Just your standard 9 volt power supply, 100 milliamps. So that would be 0.1 amp. So of these two, you could use the 0.5 and it would work fine because it's already supplying more power to this pedal than it needs to work. So really, you could just get one of these and you're good to go. And I think that that's the case with most pedals because again, you're looking at this one and it's a big pedal. But then you have something like the MXR Dynacomp here that I have, that on the side, it literally just specifies 9 volt. That's it. That's all it says. Or something like this little Donner pedal here. This one says 9 volt, 0.3 amps. Now you're looking at not milliamps like the TC Electronics said. This one said 100 milliamps. This says 0.3 amps. So you could still use the 0.5 amp here, and that almost matches this one exactly. So it's weird. You look at it. This one actually requires more power than this one does. Now, in terms of not damaging your units, you may not have enough power to even power on the unit. So take, for example, this right here, the Donner APL. This one also takes 9 volt power, but it also specifies up here 1000 milliamps, which means that we need a full amp doing our conversions there. So between the two that we have here, this one, that's the 0.5 amps, would actually not be powerful enough to power on this pedal. So you would need this other one from JOYO with the 1.2 that has just enough and then a little bit to get something like this running properly and even turning on to begin with. So let's say you have a pedal board. None of those pedals run on a 9 volt battery and you need to power all of them on without having a bunch of these going to each individual pedal. What do? We have a couple of different options here. Firstly, you can get a powered pedal board. Essentially, it has a power supply built into it. You plug in the power supply to a wall, and then you run individual little cables to each pedal, and everything's good to go. But they can be rather pricey, so shop around a little bit and find out if that's an option for you. If not, your second option is you can get something called a daisy chain, which essentially is one long cable just like that, but it's got the part that you plug into your pedal kind of scattered throughout the wire, making it a chain, right? And you just plug them in, plug it into the wall, and you're good to go. A lot of people seem to diss on the daisy chains. I used one for a long time, never had any issues, but that is an option that you do have. The third option, and I think the one that most people will opt for, is to get an independent power supply, either one that is wired or one that is wireless that you charge, battery powered, and mount that to your pedal board and just throw it in a bag and you're ready to go. Which, funnily enough, right? JOYO, they sent me one. This is the JP02, their power supply. This is not a battery-powered power supply. You do still need to plug it into the wall, but again, I think it's very important that you understand that this is not a bad thing. This is essentially the powered pedal board option, but you can remove the power supplies because sometimes you can't remove the power supply from those powered pedal boards. And I think the ability to remove it is good in case this ever failed and you need to replace it. You don't have to throw out the entire pedal board or take up space on your pedal board mounting another power supply to it. So this is a great option, and in fact, pairing it with something like the Guyker GPB02B, which is a big, nice pedal board, which I've reviewed on this channel. Guyker is a sub-brand of JOYO, so relevant. You can actually mount the power supply underneath the pedal board in the back, and everything runs from the back up or down, and it's out of the way, which I'll demonstrate here in just a minute when we mount the JP02 to it. But yeah, this feels like a great option here. It looks like a great option. It's a big solid metal block of joy and wonder. You get in the box, I have to say, right here, a bunch of these cables, and they're just little cables that go from the power supply to your pedals to power them on. And then more importantly, you get one of these. We've talked about a couple of these, right? But this one is an 18 volt. So it's 18 volts, 1 whole amp. So this is the one that came with the power supply. So you would want to use this one. But if anything ever happened to this power supply here, the one that plugs into the unit, that's where you need to do your research, where I'm hoping you listened in the beginning part of this video. If you need to buy a replacement, you now know what to look for. So everything is rated correctly, you don't mess up your power supply or your pedals, and everything's good to go. So with that being said, let's go ahead and see how easy it is to mount this to a pedal board like the JOYO GPP02B. Let's go ahead and check it out. So real quick, I have a review on the JOYO pedal board if you want to go check it out. Tells you how to install everything, but I'll just show you kind of the benefit of having the removable power supply really quickly. So in this case, what you can do is you can take and mount the power supply under these little brackets here, just like this. If I can find the screw hole there. And again, this is the benefit of having a pedal board like this. If this power supply were to ever fail, you could just unscrew these little brackets here, take it out, and replace it. With something from JOYO like that, I don't think that it would fail anytime soon. Everything fails at some point. I'm not going to say it's going to last forever, but regardless, you can put it on there like that. And the best part is you don't have to remove this at all. You can take this, put it straight in the bag, have it all ready to go, and then all you'll have to do is plug this in to the wall, turn it on, and you're ready to play your gig. So removing this if it ever fails, being able to replace that very easily, not having to get rid of your whole pedal board, the JOYO JP02 sounds like a win for your entire pedal board, if I do say so myself. The other huge benefit of a power bank like this one from JOYO is that you have different voltage outs, right? So you have a 9 volt out, you have a 12 volt out, and you have an 18 volt out on this power supply, ready to go. So when you plug it in, turn it on, you can power your pedals, you can power multi-effects pedals, you can even power small lunchbox amp heads that you want to put on your pedal board. All of that is ready to go thanks to something like the JP02 from JOYO. So as you can no doubt tell, power supplies can be tricky, but JOYO has you covered with a bunch of different options here, basically covering every need that you could possibly have. Independent power supplies, power banks, like the one I just showed you, they're all rated for different things. But JOYO has got you covered with a wide variety of different types of power supplies, all the ones that you could possibly need to power your pedals, multi-effects pedals, amp heads, you know, whatever you need. Whatever needs a power supply like I just showed you, they got you covered. So check the links down there in the description. Make sure you are powering all your things properly so you don't damage units, you don't cause fires, because that is a real possibility, and just making sure everything's working as it should. Check the links in the description. Thank you very much, JOYO, for sponsoring this video by sending out your wonderful power supplies. I greatly appreciate it, and I hope all of you guys stay safe out there, and until next time, I'll catch you in the next video.